Welcome, wrestling fans. Welcome to Curtain Jerkin. As always, I'm your host, Jacob Grondy, reporting for the Main Event Marks YouTube channel. You can also check me out on Spotify. You can check me out in tons of places. Thank you for checking me out. I guess if you can hear my voice right now, you already are checking me out, and I appreciate that. It's been a while. I think it's been about a week since I've talked to you guys. I miss you guys. I like doing this. I like watching wrestling. It was a bit overwhelming with all the shows to watch, but I'm getting it done. I'm watching some G1. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Ring of Honor. We're going to be talking about AEW. We're also going to be talking about my bike trip. I biked from 36 miles. I guess that might be a lot to some, might be few to others, but 36 miles from my house in Gibsonville, North Carolina, to Chapel Hill, North Carolina, to see a band that I've enjoyed for almost my whole life. Less Than Jake, as I'm trying to adjust the volume here. Hopefully you guys can bear with me. Adjust your volume while I'm adjusting mine. If I'm too loud, turn me down. Of course, if I'm too low, turn me up, We'll adjust together. We'll make this work. But yeah, I went and saw Less Than Jake at the Cat's Cradle 25-year anniversary of my favorite album of theirs, up there with like my favorite album of all time. I was given Hello Rockview, which is an album of theirs in the 4th grade by my uncle, and I remember playing the shit out of it throughout my life. And it's crazy to think that it's been 25 years, but it was fun to bike, go through in the back roads. I popped my tire in Graham, North Carolina, so get on there if you want to, do some Google Maps. So in Graham, I popped the tire, had to get that fixed. Stopped in Saxapaw, a nice little quaint town, and got some pizza. And then I went to Chapel Hill, got a hotel, and I just crashed after that, waited for the show. Super stoked on the show. The Voodoo Glow Skulls played. Cool thing about the Voodoo Glow Skulls that wraps it up into wrestling is they have wrestling, lucha masks on their CD covers. The lead singer wears a lucha mask when he's out there performing. It was pretty sick. But yeah, then I biked back the next day, went to work. So I didn't really get to catch up on too much wrestling that day. But of course I did throughout the week. I caught up on some wrestling news like Roosh re-signing with AEW. Rumor was that WWE wanted him. Rumor was that AEW still wanted him, and he re-signed with AEW. Brian Pillman rumored to sign with WWE now that he left AEW. I don't know really. I can see him in NXT. I can also see them not wanting to sign him and him end up in like NWA or something like that. Time will tell. But let's jump into the week that was in AEW, going over every single match from Collision and Dynamite from worst to first. I like this comparing Collision to Dynamite thing because that seems to be, the talk of AEW. Like, what's better, the CM Punk show or like the Elite show? But the Elite weren't on Dynamite at all this week. But CM Punk was on Collision. I love the promos that kick off Collision. I say that every show, but I have to say that AEW dropped the ball a little bit with the Acclaimed, and it was very apparent. I mean, these guys were mega over, but you did not, really see them do anything with them as champs. And now they have this like stop-start angle going on with House of Black, when House of Black is really kind of tied into Andrade. It's like they do these angles a lot here, like Keith Lee and Swerve don't really like each other, and you barely really see that kind of getting any momentum, but every few months they kind of remind you of it. And the Acclaimed and House of Black are kind of going into that same motion here. They kind of don't like each other, but now they kind of do. I don't know. We'll have to see where it goes. I like everyone involved. Swerve, Lee, the Acclaimed. They all have potential to be big stars in the world of AEW. But they're kind of stuck in limbo in these storylines. Dynamite had some good storylines this week, but going into Collision, I kind of felt down on AEW. Or leaving Collision, I felt down on AEW. Tony Schiavone in the ring brings out Ricky Starks. Ricky Starks, gets an amazing amount of promo. It was like Raw started in the Attitude Era type shit. Just pyro after pyro. And this was kind of like a very raw beginning to an AEW show. The guy comes out, and then he gets interrupted by Punk, kind of calls out Punk, and then Punk gets interrupted by Christian Cage and Luchasaurus. Darby interrupts all of them, and we get a tag match involving the 4 men that just happened to come out at the top of the show in the main event. Very raw. This is confirmation that the people who are putting Collision together aren't the same people that are putting Dynamite together, but I do think that, Jimmy Jacobs, a guy that we saw at Ring of Honor pay-per-view over the weekend, just signed to Ring of Honor, or just signed to AEW, and he was working on Raw for a number of years, so I think his fingerprints are all over Collision, and I think all over Dynamite as well. I think this is a great hire for AEW to bring him in. I think we can already see his mind and how he structures shows working out and coming into play. I didn't mind that the Collision was a little bit like Raw. Andrade not being allowed in the building, setting up for the ladder match with Buddy Matthews next week. Oh my God, with the mask on the line, sign me up. Buddy Matthews and Andrade, this match is going to steal the show. You need a must see element to Collision for them to get big numbers, I think. I don't think there was a must-see element to Collision this week. We didn't even know if CM Punk was going to be on the show. But next week, you got the ladder match. I think you got MJF and Cole versus FTR. And then you got Punk, dispersed throughout. I think that's enough to get people to tune in to Collision. But this week was kind of a down week for Collision. FDR come out, cut a promo. They kind of get booed by this New Jersey crowd, mentioning MJF and Cole. I think people like MJF and Cole a lot too, but I also think that they're getting kind of the residual effect from CM Punk getting booed. They mentioned the Acclaimed, which was good to hear. I want to see, they said they have unfinished business with the Acclaimed. They said they have unfinished business with the Young Bucks. And then they said they have unfinished business with Aussie Open. I mean, I would love to see any of those tag teams, any combinations of those tag teams on AEW. Jumping over to Dynamite, though, Darby with the video package, kind of like the video package he did with Nick Wayne. These are kind of like these mini documentaries, barely even video packages. You kind of forget that you're watching wrestling here when you see these video packages, and that's what a good video package does, I think. I think it brings you into the story of the vignette, of the video package, so much so that you it slips your mind you're watching wrestling in an odd way, and you just feel like you're just watching a good documentary or movie or television show. But this breaks down that, Darby went from Seattle to Atlanta to train under AR Fox, kind of showcasing AR Fox more or less. I actually met AR Fox in Greensboro, North Carolina, doing an indie show. I wanted to interview him when I did interview podcast, and I walked right up to him, asked him for an interview, and he may or may not have handed me something that people smoke in places where cannabis is legal, and we may or may not have partaken in that. And I thought that was kind of cool. Very nice gesture if he did something like that. And he said that, you know what? You showed some guts. I'll do an interview with you. And I was thinking he wanted to do an interview after his match. So I set up this whole thing at this indie show with my computer and my mic and everything. And then he was like, no, I'm not going to do this here, man. Just here, call me. I called him, and I'm not that good of an interviewer. And interviewing AR Fox is something that made me realize it. But I did find out about this training school. He bought it from Mr. Hughes from WWE fame or WWF fame, and he said he had no clue who Mr. Hughes was, and he did say, like Darby Allin kind of alluded to, was he is 24 hours a day into wrestling. He looks like he's in tremendous shape, as you saw, and I mean, the guy can do a lot of stuff. He had a few trainees with him that night that I met him, so I mean, I can attest to this being true, and it's kind of cool to see it play out on TBS. Don Callis books Jericho in a tag match, teaming with Takeshita, but going up against Sammy and Garcia of the JAS. What the fuck? Purposely causing tension here. I don't trust Callis, and I don't think Jericho should either. Hook sitting down, waiting for the subway to go by. I don't really know what this showcased, but it kind of had that feel of, I forgot I was watching wrestling. It looked like I was going to watch the beginning of a movie here. And I think people flipping through channels are probably going to have that same effect. And maybe, I know a lot of people don't flip through channels anymore, but if you do that, I bet you would stop here and see what this Hook thing was all about. Jack Perry, no love lost with Hook and him. He has a shirt that says, I beat Hook, with the new music and everything. Comes out, gets interrupted by Jerry Lynn, and more or less challenges Jerry Lynn to a fight next week. And he says, we'll see who gets their ass kicked. I think Jerry Lynn is going to get roped in here, and we're going to get maybe a Jack Perry's new muscle here. Someone was driving the car when he was diving into it. Who's it going to be? I think Jerry Lynn is going to get attacked, and we're all going to find out who was behind the vehicle, and maybe we're going to see Jack Perry get some more muscle, some new muscle, maybe like Big Bill or something like that. I'm just guessing. Britt Baker with the solid promo. Last week, apparently, there was a series of promos with MJF and Cole. MJF just lays into FTR like only he can do. Going into their match on Saturday, Roderick Strong with the neck brace, pissed that Cole is letting MJF, into his world, into his his bubble, so to speak. Not, obviously you can see this from a mile away. There's about to be a heel turn, but you kind of forget about it with how well they're getting along. They're nailing this story arc here, and Roddy sees it. Roddy isn't crazy. He's just injured. Going off with his neck brace. The humor elements are right then and there. It's kind of funny to see this. FTR cutting promos. They hate MJF. I would hate them too if he buried me like he buried them. Calls him a generational asshole. If they have to beat Cole, they will do it, even though they like Cole. But then we go to the Jericho Appreciation Society in shambles. They can't believe what they are seeing here. They hate the painting that Callis gave Jericho. I think it's hilarious. The painting was fucking funny, and it was funny that he already had it hanging up in his office or whatever. Anna Jay, fat ass, bad attitude, says that Jericho is being selfish, and then the members walk off. Jake Hager already walked off on Jericho. It looks like the only members that haven't walked away officially on Jericho, he's facing next week. I can't believe this shit. The tearing apart of the Jericho Appreciation Society. You think this is easy for me? Daddy Magic Leaving says, yeah, looks pretty easy. Ouch, man. Ouch. Daddy Magic cutting deep here. They hype up Rampage. They hype up Collision. They hype up the 200th episode of Dynamite next week. They did a lot of booking here on this show. I do feel like Jimmy Jacobs coming into play on Dynamite definitely showed on Collision and showed here on Dynamite. To the point where ranking some of these matches from worst to first, you kind of have to talk about matches that are ranked a little higher, before, it kind of messed up what we were doing here with this ranking system. But we ranked all 9 matches from worst to first. Number 9, still a great match, Miro versus Camarado. Camarado attacking Miro during the entrance. Why don't they push this guy? Is he too WWE outside of WWE without being in WWE before? Because the guy's big, the guy's tan, he's wrestling great. He doesn't really move like a light heavyweight by any means, so I think he gets lost in the shuffle a lot here in AEW. Miro chokes him out with the game over and gets the victory. Action, Andretti and Darius Martin versus Bullet Club Gold. Action on the outside, Austin Gunn on the outside being hilarious here, cheering on Bullet Club Gold, just like he did during the pandemic era at Daly's place. He is an excellent cheerleader on the outside. That's what he did to kind of get over in the first place before the Guns wrestled week to week on television. Austin Gunn was just like an extra acting as a crowd member at Daly's place. Feels like years, it was years ago. Feels like a long, long time ago before that happened. The Guns have really come in to their own. But here we got a little taste, and it brought me back here to the pandemic era of Daly's place. At the end of the match, Left Hand of God, DDT, Blade Runner 1, 2, 3. Bullet Club Gold get the victory. Britt Baker and Taya Valkyrie from Dynamite. Taya almost hits the road to Valhalla. Some pretty sloppy shit happened here. We get a strike battle. Northern Lights 1-2. Britt kicks out. Panama Sunrise from Britt 1-2. Taya kicks out. Lockjaw. Taya taps out. But I do feel like the setup match was better than the actual match in this case. And I was kind of looking forward to this match, but Sky Blue versus Taya Valkyrie on Collision I thought was a little better. All Valkyrie in the early going, more than just a booty on Blue. She's holding her own, but Taya does beat her 1-2-3 and then calls out Baker for Dynamite. But I thought the Sky Blue and Valkyrie match, there was a little better chemistry here than with Taya and Britt Baker. So I actually ranked that match a little higher, but not as high as I ranked Pac versus Gravity. Gravity looks good here. Slamming him on the outside, diving with his hands on his side. Nice touch. But Pac started lighting up Gravity, hits a huge brainbuster off the top rope, locks in the brutalizer, and Gravity taps out like a bitch. Number 4, the Mount Rushmore of AEW television this week. Swerve and Darby. Action goes to the floor. Darby uses the steps. Swerve launches himself off the steps. Rocks Darby. Also rocks Darby with a knee as Darby dives to the ropes going to the outside. He also drops Darby off the top rope onto the apron on a fireman's carry. This looked nasty. But then a hooded asshole attacks Darby from behind the ref's back, and then revealing that it's AR Fox, who took exception to how Darby treated him after AR Fox laid out Cassidy, not Isaiah Cassidy, but Orange Cassidy, after a loss from Cassidy earlier in the evening. AR Fox joins Mogul Embassy, but this whole thread where we get a video package, then we get a bit of a heel turn that leads into a big heel turn is something that I think Jimmy Jacobs put together. I think there's some writers in the writing room with Tony Khan here, because some of these things are getting strung together and kind of making sense as you watch the show like it wasn't before. I liked the show before, don't get me wrong, but there's just a little more to the storyline that wasn't on Dynamite before and wasn't on Collision before. And I do know they just signed Jimmy Jacobs. I'm not trying to harp on this too much, but I think, I mean, if I was a betting man, I would put $100 that Jimmy Jacobs is in the back there with Jeff Jarrett helping write this show with Tony. Number 3, though, the main event of Collision, Christian Cage and Starks versus Darby and Punk. Punk's reaction was a mix. Seemed 50-50, but it must have gone negative because there was no Big CM Punk chance. Pretty interesting. Continues to be one of the most interesting things on the show is just how people are going to react to CM Punk in mass, city by city, because it does change, which is interesting. It's a cultural phenomenon that needs to be studied in a college classroom or some shit. Starks and Cage, neither one of them want to go in there against Punk. This was pretty good here. Starks gets taken to task, and then Cage gets brought in the hard way. Darby with the coffin drop, dives between the middle and bottom rope. I love that shit every time. Goes to the well too many times, goes after Luchasaurus and just bounces off of him. Scorpio Sky watching from the skybox. Darby in trouble. Punk with the hot tag. Probably could have used a little extra 90 seconds in the microwave. This hot tag really wasn't hot enough for me. Punk hits the GTS to the floor to Cage, but Darby gets rolled up after a coffin drop attempt because Luchasaurus gets in the way. Ricky Starks gets the 1-2-3 while holding the ropes for leverage for the second week in a row. Pretty interesting. Nice methodical heel turn here. Number 2, the Lucha Brothers versus Best Friends versus Blackpool Combat Club, the main event of Dynamite. Lucha Brothers and Best Friends brawling as Blackpool Combat Club come into the ring, brawling all over the place. Chuck dives off the ramp, back in the ring. Ref gets order. Claudio is about to hit the Ricola bomb, but then Cassidy's music hits. He already got attacked from Moxley because he attacked Claudio at ROH. I don't know how many people watched ROH to understand what was going on here, but enough people watched the beginning of the show to see Moxley take out Cassidy. Cassidy and Mox brawling on the outside. Claudio gets hit by Trent's big move. 1, 2, 3. It doesn't matter. Claudio's not the legal man. Penta is. He comes in, fucks up Trent. 1, 2, 3. Lucha Brothers win the match. But the big storyline here is Moxley and Cassidy are going at it. We got Wembley about a month away. I think Moxley and Cassidy are going to wrestle at Wembley Stadium. That wouldn't be maybe the match that I would put together, but when you're thinking about it, you're gonna have those Cassidy kicks that the crowd loves to ironically mark out over. 90,000 strong against one of your biggest stars in your promotion. You don't really know what he's gonna do, but I think Moxley and Cassidy not only are gonna wrestle at Wembley, I think they might steal the show. But that wasn't the best match out of AEW this week. Cassidy, the aforementioned Orange Cassidy, I should say, versus AR Fox, the curtain jerker of Dynamite. This match was great. Cassidy trying to get out of the armbar, can't kip up, but kips up perfectly when he gets put in the head scissors. I mean, the comedy is right there. Hilarious. I thought the crowd would have laughed a little bit more at that spot. I thought that spot was great. Springboard off the post to hit a moonsault from AR Fox. Huge suplex from Fox. 1, 2, Cassidy kicks out. Fox dives. Then another one in the ring. 1, 2, Cassidy kicks out again. Cassidy dives. DDT. 1, 2, Fox gets out. The low main pain. Kind of like a springboard Spanish fly thing that AR Fox connects with. 1, 2, Cassidy kicks out again. Rolling Thunder on the apron by AR Fox. Now that I'm looking over this match was great because of AR Fox. 450, no one home. Roll up, 1, 2, no. Mousetrap, 1, 2, 3. Cassidy gets a victory. Fox knocks Cassidy out after the match. Darby comes out pissed, and that's what sets up the heel turn later on in the show with AR Fox attacking Darby. Moxon comes out and drops Cassidy again because of what happened on the Ring of Honor pay-per-view. And that's how we get Cassidy coming out at the top of the show, or the end of the show. And that's what I think is going to set up the Wembley match. So, a lot more story arcs and a lot more threads throughout the whole show. And I think that's a Jimmy Jacobs fingerprint thing going on, if I have to say. But let's go into the Ring of Honor pay-per-view. I watched the Ring of Honor pay-per-view. This is like AEW Bizarro World. I don't watch Ring of Honor too much nowadays, but it does seem like, some guys from AEW, some guys that you never see on AEW really. I don't really know if ROH really has an identity now, which they used to always before. It was like a super high work rate alternative to WWE, but that's kind of what AEW is now. So just with a bigger budget. So now Tony bought Ring of Honor, but I don't think he realizes that now that AEW is there, his creation kind of pushed away what he loves and what inspired his creation in the first place, which is Ring of Honor. Or maybe he does, I don't know. But going into every single match on this show from Worst to First, there was 12 fucking matches on this show. Too many matches, I'll say that. Josh Woods and Tracy Williams, first match on the show, worst match on the show, which is okay opener. But just like Forbidden Door, too many matches on the pre-show. Woods chokes out Tracy to get the victory. AR Fox, best match on AEW, second to worst match on the show, beating Shane Taylor. Like I said, solid match. 450, 1, 2, 3. AR Fox wins. Layla Hirsch and Trish Adora. These two ladies need to be on the AEW women's roster. Their size and kind of style would stand out a lot, and I think would help out a lot of the women's wrestlers on the main show. Styles makes fights. These ladies got style. I don't even know who got the victory here, but it's ranked number 10. Action and Darius versus the Workhorsemen. This match was good. Action and Darius seem to be popping up a lot here. Ring of Honor and Collision, they get the victory over a team that's near and dear to my heart, the Workhorsemen, because we see them a lot in the Carolinas. Taguchi, Master Wato, and Leon Ruffin versus the Mogul Embassy for the Ring of Honor 6-man titles. What a random group of guys the Mogul Embassy went up against here. I know that, they just kind of want the Mogul Embassy to look dominant, but there is not even a division for the Ring of Honor Tag Team Championship here. I mean, they got to just have the Mogul Embassy feud with House of Black, have these guys feud with House of Black, and combine these titles, and that way you can get a little star power on the Ring of Honor shows. You can get House of Black popping up in Ring of Honor, and I think that would sell some tickets, and I think that would be better than just to have these three guys just, dominate on every show. I think it's been over a year now these guys have formed and won the titles, haven't lost anything. Commander versus Gravity. This match was the curtain jerker of the main show. First time I've seen Bandito's brother Gravity. I love the astronaut gimmick. I love the Buzz Lightyear tights. He wrestles a lot like Bandito, high flyer, but still strong as fuck. Commander, always cool to watch wrestle, but loses to Gravity. I think Gravity might be getting pushed here, I guess. Oh, wait. I didn't rank Pac and Gravity in the ranking system, but, I mean, Pac did beat Gravity, so I don't know. I don't know really where anyone else is on this pecking order. Commander maybe is getting stale, loses the Gravity, but Gravity loses the Pac on the show handedly. I don't know. Dalton Castle versus Joe. I thought this match was going to be pretty interesting. You have a character wrestler versus, an all-time great. All Joe in the early going. The boys saving Dalton. Stokely Hathaway is out there trying to get in Joe's good graces. Gets the boys into the back. And then Dalton gets choked out. Solid match for early part of the pay-per-view, but doesn't really stand out. I kind of, right there in the middle. It was kind of mid. Dark Order versus the Righteous. This match was nuts. But if I'm going to be a little nitpicky here, what stood out to me in this match was the order of the weapons. I mean, a lot of times you see a chair come into play, but here they had tacks before Legos. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've stepped on a Lego before, it hurts, but it can't hurt as much as stepping on a fucking tack. And then Evil Uno comes in with a chair after we saw tacks. I think, of course it's a brawl, anything could happen. But you got to build, I think, you got to build the weaponry up to where it's shocking the more you see it. Number 4 is Pac and Claudio. I thought this match was going to be great. I thought it was going to steal the show, but it ended up just being a good match on the show. Pop-up uppercut by Claudio. Pac with the moonsault. Claudio catches him. Battle up the ramp. Pac gets caught in the ring. Pac lands a moonsault. Then back in the ring, goes up top, gets cut off. Claudio goes for a powerbomb, and Pac turns it into a Frankensteiner off the top. Black Arrow, no one home. Huge lariat by Claudio. Pac locks in the Brutalizer. The Ring of Honor champion Claudio Castagnoli stands up while in the Brutalizer, goes all the way up top, and then hits the air raid crash. But then Wheeler Yuta comes up and just cheats, and then Claudio wins. And that kind of took the wind out of my sails. If that didn't happen, I would have ranked this match a lot higher. I think it was just building up nicely, and then they started doing all these angles, like AEW. Is this a Ring of Honor? Is Ring of Honor an AEW show or Ring of Honor show? You don't really know where it is. It's just like AEW Bizarre World Light kind of thing. But of course, the Lucha Brothers don't like that Blackpool Combat Club is cheating. Best Friends come out because they don't like the Lucha Brothers, and that kind of brings Cassidy out. Cassidy lays out Claudio, the champion. So I'm thinking we're going to get Claudio versus Cassidy, but they kind of, as we saw, spun it off to Moxley versus Cassidy. And if I'm not mistaken, I think they're going to go to Wembley with that feud, and this all got set up here. So I think, it was a solid match. But the fallout is what we're all going to be talking, or is what I'm talking about, and I think what we're all going to be talking about, in the history books, so to speak. The third best match on the show, the Lucha Brothers versus the Kingdom versus the Best Friends versus Aussie Open. This match was good. All these teams are good. Lucha Brothers dive, Taven dive, Beretta goes up, gets suplexed by Bennett. Bennett goes up, gets suplexed by Beretta onto everyone. Big double suplex by Best Friends. Bennett stops Best Friends from hugging. Taven stops Best Friends from hugging. Maria can't stop Best Friends from hugging, despite her voluptuous figure that she's using to tempt Chuck Taylor. He still goes for the hug. Package pile driver from Lucha Brothers. 1-2. Bennett kind of stops the pin. He must have untied Penta's shoes here or something, because he definitely didn't pull Pentagon off of his opponent to stop the pin, but the ref stopped counting, so he kind of moved on. The crowd booed. I didn't like it. This was sloppy shit here. Aussie Open ended up getting the victory with a roll-up. 1, 2, 3. These guys were IWGP champs, had to drop the IWGP titles as they were clearly becoming Tag Team of the Year, and there was a big gap here. That gap was filled with the Bullet Club Gold versus FTR feud, so now I don't really know who's going to be Tag Team of the Year, but that question needs to maybe be answered, because FTR and Aussie Open kind of have unfinished business, as what FTR said on Collision. I wouldn't mind. But I'm surprised that Aussie Open left New Japan to do this, because they were getting pushed to the moon. They were a part of a solid faction. They were getting pushed as the tag team, but also getting pushed as single stars. But then you start checking out Kyle Fletcher's Instagram and everything, and you see he's hooking up with Sky Blue. So, he's staying in America. I would say because of that. I'm saying he's hooking up with Sky Blue. He says, fuck New Japan. I don't need New Japan. I already won those tag titles. I don't need to wrestle in the most prestigious tournament in the wrestling world. I'll win these Ring of Honor tag titles, and I'll travel around America with my best friend and Sky Blue. Why wouldn't you? That seems like the American dream. That was the third best match on the show. The second best match on the show, Garcia versus Shibata. Pure title on the line. I love the pure title rules. This is my kind of wrestling, man. These two guys locking horns. Garcia gets hit first and uses a rope break. Spills to the floor to take a powder. Ropes Shibata into coming to the floor. Gets advantage on the outside. Garcia starts dancing. Shibata's pissed. He says he hates the dancing, but he's the only one in New Jersey who seems to hate the dancing. The people love it. Christopher Daniels, who is a judge on the outside, you can see him covering his face because he loves the dancing. That was a fun thing to watch during this match. You can tell he loves it. You can tell there's a little bit of Curry Man in Garcia. Great wrestler, but doesn't mind the showmanship. Curry Man is Christopher Daniels' gimmick, if you didn't know, from TNA and from even earlier Michinoku Pro. Shibata sits down, challenges Garcia to sit down for a chop battle. Garcia dances his way down, which I'm sure pisses off Shibata to lay in a chop a little more. Garcia reverses the STF that gets reversed into a bow and arrow. Both men down. Dragon Tamer. But Garcia wrenches back too much. Gets caught in a choke. Lands some chops. Chokes him down to the mat. Lands a PK from Shibata. 1, 2, 3. Garcia loses. I thought Garcia was going to win the match. The crowd wanted Garcia to win over Shibata, which is crazy to think about. Shibata won the match. Garcia won the crowd. Shibata wants a handshake. Garcia flips him off. Shibata grabs the middle finger and makes Garcia shake his hand, punking him out even more. That was a great fucking match. It had everything. It had the pro wrestling elements. It had the sports entertainment elements with the dancing and everything. Such a simple thing to do. This was a great match, but not as good as Athena versus Willow, the main event of the evening, the best match on the card. I wasn't looking forward to this match. I really kind of looked past this match, but going into it, both ladies landing some snug strikes. Backbreaker 1-2. Willow kicks out, cross body off the apron by Willow. Athena gets ran into the steps. Athena hits a standing moonsault where Willow powers out of that. Goes for a pin. 1-2. Athena kicks out. Athena goes off here. Deadlift powerbomb by Willow. 1-2. No. Spicoli driver off the top. 1-2. Athena kicks out again. She hits the O-face. 1-2. No. She hits the O-face again. Locks in the crossface. Willow fighting but goes out. Ref has to call it here. So the lady who won the Owen Hart tournament just took an L. I don't know what's going on with Willow. She beats Sasha Banks in kind of a fluke finish, drops the title, wins the Owen Hart tournament. loses the next match she wrestles. It's a lot of stop-start pushing from Willow. The crowd is behind her. I don't know if the company's behind her, but we will see what goes down. I don't know how I feel about Willow. I used to think, she's she's clunky, she hurts people, but then I find myself, the music hits, everyone's having a good time. I see her hit that like dirty, super snug sit-down power bomb, and I like that. I'm on the fence about Willow, but right now, I think the fence is kind of blowing over to some positive, good momentum. I might be marking out for Willow a little bit secretly. But that's me talking about Ring of Honor. That's me talking about AEW. Now let's talk about the G1. I'm actually glad that I'm all caught up with AEW and that I'm putting WWE to the side until SummerSlam. We're definitely going to be watching SummerSlam because tomorrow morning and tomorrow night and Friday morning and Friday night and Saturday morning, I'm only going to be watching all the G1 matches I need to catch up with. Let's look at the standings here. You need 14 points to have a perfect record in your block. And your block is like a little league, like your division. You wrestle every single person in your block, and the person with the highest points goes on to the finals. So A block here, Sonata's in first place. Kaito Kitamura from Noah is in second place, but he's 3 moves out. Sonata hasn't lost. The world champion, the IWGP world champion in New Japan, hasn't lost 4 in a row in this tournament, which is rare. Usually they get a loss or 2 in this tournament, and that's kind of what sets up who they wrestle throughout the year. If you beat the champion in G1, no, you don't win the title, but you do get a title shot after the G1. But no one's done that yet here. Despite Sonata having perfect victories, I haven't heard much about him having these blowaway matches. Where Kaito Kiyomiya, with 5 matches, 2 victories, 1 loss, and 1 tie. I mean, I thought he had a great match at the beginning of the G1. I can't remember, but he stood out a little bit more to me. Going into B block here, Okada hasn't lost. The GOAT Okada hasn't lost, but Will Ospreay right on his heels, and Ospreay and Okada, no love lost there. The first time I saw them wrestle was a few years ago in the G1 here, and I bet they're going to tear the house down. I know that Will Ospreay had a great match with Kenta that people are talking about, so go out of your way to watch that one if you're looking for something to watch. In the C block, anyone's race here. You have David Finlay with 6 points, Evil with 6 points, Tama Tonga with 6 points, Eddie Kingston with 4, and Shingo with 4. So anyone's ball game here in the C block. I've heard mixed reviews of Eddie Kingston's tournament so far, but I think Kingston always gets mixed reviews. I love him. Look for him wrestling Tomohiro Ishii. Apparently that was a great match. And then look for him wrestling Shingo. That's a great match. From what I understand. Going into the D block, you have Jeff Cobb, who hasn't lost yet, and right on his heels is Zack Sabre Jr., and then you got Hiroshi Tanahashi, Goto, Naito, and Shane Haste, formerly of WWE's Shane Haste, all with 4 points, so that looks like it's anyone's block as well. Who would I want to see win that block? I think Zack Sabre Jr. would be cool to win the block. I think he's going to go up against, maybe David Finlay is going to win the C block. And then I think you're going to have Okada and Sonata in the other 2 blocks winning the whole thing. But yeah, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to catch back up with G1 until Collision. I love pro wrestling again. Looking at the G1 standings. I like Less Than Jake, as you guys found out. I like riding my e-bike 70-some miles. That's fun. Let me know if you like wrestling in the comments below. Let me know if you like wrestling. Follow me on Twitter or X or whatever the hell it's called, @JG Pro Wrestling. As always, fly high. I'm out.